Okay, so welcome back to the channel, everyone. There is so much to talk about. A new roguelike being concepted behind the scenes, Illuvium Beyond updates to pricing, structure, and rewards, Season 3 competitive rewards, and some delays to Illuvium Zero that we also need to talk about today. Now, if you want to learn all about what's happening behind the scenes at Illuvium, then Kieran is the one that can answer all of these questions for us. Before we jump straight into it, I did really like this question in the chat because I saw on the Paz AMA you said you had returned to the gym, and Bruce wants to know, how much are you benching?
Well, I'm not sure. I think Bruce is American, so 105 kilos, which would be around 220, 225, I think.
A little bit higher, I think, 230 maybe in pounds.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
230. Uh,
And did
and
you find
yes,
your ring?
I did. So no idea why, but I'm trying to ring my trainers. You would have seen in my eyes the dread in that
Oh,
in
yeah.
that video. I was like,
Oh,
fuck.
yeah.
And I called him and I was like, and no answer, and went on for like an hour. I went down to both cars. I'm like freaking out. And then he finally messages me back and he's like, oh yeah, I was gonna ask you tomorrow when I go back. I go 3 days a week. I was gonna ask you if it was yours. I was like, dude, like it's not just a wedding ring. It's got sentimental value. With it's got a jewel from my mom and a jewel from my late grandfather, and so like I can't replace it.
Mm. Well, I'm glad it's been found and it's going to be all good. But now let's get on to Illuvium. So for the first thing, with Season 3 upcoming, what are we actually waiting for before the Illuvium Season 3 kicks off with the huge competitive scene we've been talking about?
So the game needs to be smooth. Like obviously we're going to be pushing so many new features over the next, like, call it 3-4 months. There's galaxies feature coming, there's carousels coming, there's components coming. The Ranger just got launched. Like those things were okay to have a leaderboard, and it affects everyone. It's a global update. It's no issues. Tournaments, fine. That's not what's stopping us. What's stopping us is the stability. So when we're in the process of going to multiplayer servers, and so we're doing a ton of back-end work, which affects both Overworld and Arena, but it's made things a little bit more buggy, a little bit more laggy. There are crashes, there are freezes, and we just don't. We know what's going to happen the minute that we have leaderboard rewards and tournaments and incentives. People are going to come back in droves. Like we absolutely know that, and we want it to be a good experience where even if they are sitting there saying like, I just want to earn incentives from playing, maybe after a few games they're like, whoa, actually I'm pretty hooked on this, like I just got a really good comp, I finished third or whatever. And so that really can't happen in the state it's in now. Like me personally, people have seen me, I'm pretty raw when I'm playing, and if it happens to me and I'm mid-game, I lose it. I'm like, this is just bullshit, like fix it, you know what I mean? So that's pretty much what's stopping us. The minute that happens and we fix up these issues, we're going live with it as soon as possible.
Yeah, like I even had a game the other day. I think it was maybe my first or my second game with the Ranger involved, where I got Phosphorus and I was just merging for Jotun on basically like one of the last rounds. Like I was going to win off this. I got like full Arcanite and everything, you name it, and the Jotun was going to give me the Frost and everything as well. And then I merged on like the last second for when the timer was ticking over, and it set on this onslaught of like 20 bugs that just like completely broke it, and I lost. And it felt really bad, but at the same time, like that was a really exciting moment. I still did feel some of that excitement. I'm like, I got the full team, but you know how it is. But like, yeah, so we definitely can't be having any of that. So another question comes from the community from Katniss, where they wanted to know if the competitive incentives will go beyond just leaderboard rewards. will there be NFT prizes, or is there anything else you have in mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I think similar to Beyond, there'll be a lot of soulbound stuff. But as well, I think through different seasons, there should be NFTs that are minted, like trophies and awards and stuff like that. Without a doubt, it's hasn't been the art hasn't been done yet, and we haven't really thought out what that's going to look like. But absolutely, it is on the roadmap for us to have like additional incentives that are more not so much valuable, but feel good. You know, like just hey, I got this trophy in the first season of Illuvium's arena tournaments. Like that's special to a lot of people, but probably not valuable to a bunch of other people.
Yeah, I think it's definitely cool to show it off, but maybe custom Illuvatars could be a better option as well, because they're like your profile picture, and so they're a bit more special. I don't know, but yeah, it's good to hear that there will be some stuff coming out. And I have a question about that a little bit later, so we'll
Or an
probably return to it.
accessory that goes onto your Illuvatar where you can bond it, something like that. Yeah,
a crown.
Let's just say we've discussed it at length.
I love to hear that, or something like an alpha stamp sort of thing even.
Yeah.
All right, so on top of that, let's go into marketing, because that is your area of expertise within Illuvium, as far as I'm aware. You talk about a future marketing activation where you involve many large TFT creators. Now, what I want to know from this is, firstly, what is the exact plan for this? But secondly, for the off-the-grid stuff, people had an estimate that it cost them $2 million. Given what our runway currently sits at and things like that, do we have $2 million to spend for this sort of marketing activation? I don't think, like, you can host a big tournament, but you also need to pay the creators to play the game, don't you? What are you expecting from this event?
Yes and no. So I actually got off a call with the Team Liquid guys, where they're sort of a bit of a soundboard. They're very good partners. They're friends of ours now, and we spoke to them about it. And first of all, the off-the-grid influencers are kind of like the top echelon in all of gaming influencers. And so they demand a premium that is way, way higher than your standard auto battler players, even at that top end. And so a promotion that might cost $2 million for them would be a fraction of the cost, just purely based on the games that they're playing. So that's number one. Number two, it's not guaranteed that we can get these influencers or content creators without paying them, but there's still a lot that we think are going to be enticed by such a large prize pool, and the Liquid guys think the same. That maybe not the top guys, but there's we're going after top 30 TFT players, and we want to get 16 out of the top 30. So maybe there's a few that are sitting around that sort of 30 mark that say, you know what, it looks really cool for 150 grand prize pool, I will go in, so definitely not going to spend $2 million on an influencer campaign, not even close. But we're still very confident based on our discussions with people that we've already signed to this tournament. And as you say, a week to 2 weeks lead up as well. So it's not just like, whoa, what is this? There's going to be a proper plan all the way through. And and the strategy behind that, yes, it is going to cost us a bit of money, but we've done campaigns before that maybe won't cost as much as what this one will, but not going after a bulk portion of them and only getting 3 or 4, it sort of alienates those creators, right? Like you get the effect of, oh, it's a crypto game. And yes, we're going to be in a much better position to say, like, there's no NFTs. You literally play this. It's completely free to play in a few months. But people aren't stupid, and they're still going to know, okay, this is an NFT crypto-based game. And if they have the ability to go and watch another creator that isn't a part of it or hasn't spoken about it or anything like that, then they're kind of like, see, I knew that they had just sold out. Whereas if we activate pretty much the whole TFT scene, then it's kind of like, okay, well, something big is happening here, and it's not a small prize pool either. So that's gonna grab some headlines, and then hopefully by that stage the game is so good that they also think, you know what, there's another tournament coming up where they're giving away 100 grand in prizes. Maybe I've got to put this in my repertoire now and not do as much training as TFT, but certainly trying to win these tournaments on a regular basis, which also feeds back into the leaderboards, where in order to get, like, after this first, like, call it a paid invitational, if you will, that's when it goes to a genuine invitation. If you're not in that top leaderboards, you're not getting an invite, right? We don't care who you are. And so it forces them to come back, even if the game's not as good as TFT. It's like, I'll still keep in the top of the leaderboard so I can play tournament after tournament after tournament.
Yeah, I totally feel that. And my next question was actually regarding the off the grid setup, where they had a massive activation, but really there weren't that many players still playing the game after that period. And honestly, I expected it to stick a little bit more, but me personally, there's no Australian players anymore, right? I go into a game, there's like 20 people. It's kind of rough. But I mean, even Apex Legends has that problem in Australia, for those who don't know. We seem to not have many gamers here for some reason. I don't know why, but I don't get it. Anyways, it's hard for us to play a battle royale. You guys seriously have no idea. But like, so how do you plan on actually avoiding that, where the game just dies off after your big marketing activation? I know you said you can have frequent tournaments, but how frequent do you think they need to be to keep the interest alive?
So it's kind of a similar situation to what happened when we launched Overworld, right? Like when you first get in there, the initial first day, second day, maybe third day, reactions of people were, fuck, whoa, look at these regions. They're so vast. They're so diverse. Look at these creatures. The graphics are amazing. And, oh, this is a little bit unique going into an auto battler instead of, melee combat, and whoa, there's this crafting system and all this kind of stuff. It's a shiny new toy. But after a few days, you start to realize, where's the storyline? Where's the ability for me to go in with other friends and have more of a social gameplay session, where it's not just you're bringing in 4 friends, you're talking on the mics together. Like it's not as action packed as what you would say a Power World is. These things start to creep in, and by the 7th day, people are like, you know what, this is not finished, and then it switches and it starts going really negative, right? And it doesn't matter what marketing campaign you do, right? Like you get that initial push. If your game isn't ready, and I don't think Off the Grid is ready to really compete with it, it's very good. It's very fun, action packed. It's so much better than 99.9% of every single Web3 game that has ever launched and done anything. Not saying that, but it's not quite ready. And after that initial period wears off, people are like, nah, I'm going back to the game that I love playing. I'll go to a different battle royale.
Yeah, I think we return back to the bugs thing, and I think Off the Grids really, I thought it was pretty ready. Its biggest issue is optimization, which is something I've consistently underestimated. Even something Illuvium is working on now as we go through it. So it's just one of those things. But that analogy you gave really gave me No Man's Sky vibes, where it had all this really interesting stuff, but it just felt unfinished. That's the only way to describe it. I think now I've heard from friends and stuff, they're saying it feels really, really great now. And it took 3 or 4 years, I think, at least after that initial launch to actually get to that, like, say, finished state, or at least a state that felt coherent enough. So on top of that, I do want to know one last thing from the internal teams, and what is actually the current makeup of all the teams at Illuvium right now? Marketing, art, developers, and so on. How is it sort of set up? I know that, you've had a large artist team in the past?
So we've probably gone to about, I would say 35% is artists, 35% devs, and then the rest is made up of finance, operations, marketing. We're very lean in those places. We scaled up our marketing and then realized, okay, we're probably another 3-4 months away from really wanting to push things. So we scaled our marketing teams back, which again, no fault to them, just simply, you know, a way for preservation. And then same thing, some of the artists where it was nice to have and whatever, we just had to, you know, tighten things up. And we've done that across the entire organization. We're actually at about just over 100 people now. There's about 110. And we've been sitting at that like 140 mark for a long time. And so that's done quite a bit to extend our runway. And on top of that, none of the founders are being paid anymore. Either is Danny, and Johnny's no longer with us. So that's a really big boost there as well. So we're tightening the ship. We know that we need to be in a good position to either do a raise or wait until revenue start coming in. And so, you know, we've been working towards that over the last 4 to 5 months. And the crazy thing is we're probably working faster just purely because things are more efficient. Communication channels are more streamlined. There's less people. It's like, I thought he was doing that. Or here, it's like, okay, there's one dude there. He's doing it. You know, if he's not doing it, then we're fucked, kind of thing. So it's been really good.
Yeah, I think as a business grows up, it gets bogged down a lot of red tape and things like that. And it's just one of those things that you need to try and avoid as best you can. And I don't know how you guys have dealt with that in the past, but it's a little bit tricky, and it is what it is. Even at my day job, we have a lot of trouble with that sometimes, but it's not too bad. All our teams are quite small and precise. So with that, let's move on to Illuvium 0 and get some of these questions sorted. So the first one is blueprints in megacities are now delayed about a month, maybe a little bit longer for blueprints. I'm not sure. But what I want to know is what actually caused these setbacks? What delayed them so much?
So blueprints, the game design team stepped in and wanted to change some core functionality there. So that definitely didn't help. They were meant to be released first. And there was a bit of a challenge in terms of the development of megacities and how they were actually going to solve the problem of merging multiple cities into one. And there was like layout problems. There was, you know, economy problems that needed to be solved. So it genuinely, it was one of those things that was quite frustrating because they seem like straightforward features and there was a lot more complexity than what we thought. And so the teams just took a little bit longer to get it done. We don't want to ship something that doesn't work. We never want to do that. And so, yeah, that's basically the gist of it.
And Captain Reese also asks, what is the master plan to help increase the revenue for landholders?
So we need demand of alluvials, right? Like people need to want to buy alluvials. And the first place that we can make a difference there is by getting people playing Arena and ideally playing Leviathan, right? And the way we do that is like we just spoke about, we get as many players in as possible. Once the game's ready to take those players, then we slowly educate them to go from free to play to Leviathan by purchasing a few alluvials off the Illuvidex. And what I think will happen there is as people start buying up alluvials, you're going to get the people that originally farmed in Overworld. They're going to say, oh, whoa, my alluvials are finally selling. I'm going to go back in there. My time is paying off. And so that loop, once that begins, then you're going to see people wanting to go into the overworld. There's a bunch of adjustments that we're making to the economy at the moment, which is going to make things a lot simpler for new players that come in, and should result in the landholders making a lot more money in the long run.
I think on that note, people actually underestimate what is available out there. I went through the list of alluvials I need for Leviathan, and I didn't even put in crazy stats. Like, I wasn't putting 5s across the board. I was putting like 3s, like some 2s, some 0s for different stats and things. And I still couldn't find any alluvials. Like, there's nothing there available for sale half the time for anything like tier 4 and 5. Tier 3 is pretty good, but tier 4 and 5, there's no alluvials for sale with, let's say, mediocre to decent stats on the market. They just don't exist. And so there is a lot of people that need to go out into the overworld once demand comes in for the games and for Leviathan. I think people aren't really considering that side of it sometimes.
Yes, and I think the reason that you see a lot of that is because it's kind of, you're inherently teaching yourself the auto battler with the overworld, right? And that's one of those things where when we talk about switching to melee combat in the overworld, what effect does that have? Like, how many people who love RPGs? I was speaking to a guy the other day who was like, I was always just in for the overworld. I couldn't wait until it opened. It opened. I was loving it. And then I started like fighting the alluvials, and you get good at the auto battler in just the PvE stuff. And he was like, fuck, may as well see what the deal is in arena. And now he's like, now I only play gauntlet, and so I think what's happened is there's so many people that have got massive collections that have good stats, and they're like, I'm not giving you these until I know, at least until I know what this competitive scene is going to look like, right? Because if they can use these alluvials to go and get, say, top 10 in a tournament and they make $5,000 or $10,000, maybe it's better than selling the alluvial for $300, $400. So I think, because they are out there, they do exist, they're just not on sale. So I think there's a little bit of that happening.
But that's what I mean. As demand picks up for buying them, then more people will play the overworld, spend money, and so on and so forth. And that's really the only way that it can happen. So the last one for Illuvium 0 is Spedonator wonders how landholders will actually receive their 5% of in-game revenue from Illuvium Beyond Wave 3.
So it hasn't been decided, although there was a similar discussion that was going on prior to when we thought we wouldn't have Illuvium 0 launched, and what would we do? How do we split up that revenue if we don't go live with 0? And I believe we need to have this discussion very, very soon as well. But I believe instead of a big win for the landholders would be, instead of us just saying, hey, we're going to split up the revenue based on your tier and everyone gets it, right? And there's a whole bunch of dormant land that has done absolutely nothing that gets it. I think it needs to be tied back to people who are actually playing 0. They should be the ones who are getting that revenue, because theoretically, the ones who, like, if you're not generating fuel, if Illuvium Beyond could only be purchased in fuel, then those people would be the only one who are getting paid in that situation. So it's going to be a little bit of a manual effort. I think the landholders would be happy with that. And it probably means there's a whole bunch of whales out there that are like, fuck 0. I just want my land to appreciate. I'm not generating any fuel. They'll miss out. Maybe that activates them. Maybe that gets them, generating fuel. So that would be my preferred mechanism. And I think that's going to make people very, very happy.
Yeah, I've been going hard on blueprints on just one of my plots, and I barely play the other 3, but I would definitely jump deeper into them. So now let's talk about the future plans of Illuvium. First up is optimization. How is the team progressing on that? Which assets are they optimizing? Is it just Illuvials or everything? And alongside that, how long do you actually think it will take to port Gauntlet to mobile after everything is ready?
The main thing is the alluvials. They're what is taking up. They're what's taking up the most amount of GPU and CPU usage. So doing them first, but optimizations across the board with weapons, with armor, skins. All of these things are being optimized for mobile. In terms of when do I think? It's a tough one. It really depends on the plan as it stands right now is for us to build out Arena, make it as good as possible, and then switch people back to the overworld to deliver multiplayer questing and combat. But I think we would keep a crew big enough in Arena that they could port over. Especially, we would be crazy not to if we started seeing tens of thousands of players come into Arena loving it and retention's high. It would be regardless of anything, I'm going to be the person sitting there saying, get it on mobile ASAP, because that will open up such a massive market that we've never been able to tap into. That I've always said that I think in crypto, of the 3 million people, I reckon probably 2.5 million of them are just on mobile. And so we cannot cater to those people. This would be a way. So if it's going off, it's going to be top of the list for me to be pushing.
Yeah, I think my 2 cents is you just need to shorten the game a little bit, and it would be really so much fun on mobile. I would play the crap out of it on mobile. I would love it. I have a really powerful phone now, so it wouldn't even need to be optimized. It's probably just as powerful as some people's laptops, but I would absolutely love it.
You definitely have a Samsung, don't you?
No, it's an Asus ROG.
An Android. I knew you were an Android user.
I can't do Apple. I use a Mac at work because I'm in design, and designers for some reason love fucking Apple products. But no, I can't stand it.
Whenever I see green pop up, I'm like, okay, well, that's the last time that I'll be texting that person. So it's been fun.
The software, phenomenal. Hardware, garbage. All right, so the next start we've got from Drac, where he says, when do you think the fuel exchange might switch to a single currency system?
As soon as possible. Perry and I had a chat, I think Monday, maybe Tuesday. He's in the final stages of getting that proposal ready. He's going to post that in the ideas chat. Everyone can then go and discuss it, but as soon as possible. It's part of the onboarding optimization that we're doing. It's going to be good for landholders. It's going to be good for overworld players. It's just good around all around the board.
Well, let's say the proposal got approved tomorrow. Do you know what sort of dev lift it would actually take?
Not a crazy amount. Like there's obviously a little bit in zero, refactoring a few things there. There's a bit of back end work, but it's not something that's going to take like 3 months or whatever, like not even close.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to that. I think fixing up the monetization will go a long way. So the next one is from Ruosnam. Basically, his question is, what is the current plan to avoid running out of money? Burn has been reduced, thankfully, and the DAO currently has about, let's say, 10 months of runway, probably a little bit more than that. Obviously, we've talked about a capital raise and things like that. And on the PAS AMA, you talked about the Forge. I would actually really like to see the Forge come into play here. But are there any other options? Do you think will generate enough revenue to add a significant amount of time and stuff as well? Or how do you see this playing out over the next 12 months?
So there's a few things there. The first one is we've got Illuvium Beyond coming up. That's typically a really big revenue generator. And so that's awesome. We have automated drone runs where someone like me, I've spent $5,000 in the overworld. I would have spent $100,000 by now. You find 10 of those people only and all of a sudden you got $1 million in revenue. And I know that's a bit crazy, but it's also not that crazy when you look at Beyond sales. I know someone like Johnny would have also done the same. Like we've spoken about this, we just don't have time to go into the overworld and do that many. Like it actually is impossible for us to be able to spend 100 grand, which is insane if you think about it, right? And so automated drone runs, I think is the sleeping giant. It was something that I was so adamant on. Even I think we even did an IIP and it got shut down because everyone was like, no, it's got to be pure. Now everyone's like, okay, I don't have time as well. Give us the drone runs. But yeah, so there's those two things. There's also two partners. Well, one official coming up for Illuvium Beyond, which is going to be absolutely huge. And then there's another one waiting in the wings where we're about to sign them as well, which is arguably, I don't even know if it's big. They're comparable. So there's two really good activations, plus Beyond, plus automated drone runs. And then the core, right? If we get things going in terms of arena by say January, February, and things are looking really good. Player numbers are there. Demand comes back for Overworld. We fix the fuel pricing so it's not going all over the shop and it's just easy to understand. That's 5 or 6 things that if we implement, we've got to remember as well, we've just recently moved all of those tokens into the treasury. So we make $1 million, the DAO's making around 400,000. You take 400,000 off our burn rate, all of a sudden that 10 months turns into 20 months. And then all of a sudden you go to an investor and you say, hey, we've just reduced our spend, right? Our costs have gone down massively. Our revenue has increased massively because of those two things. Our runway has been extended. We probably don't even need to do this capital raise. We've nearly got 2 years runway and revenue starting to go like that. We're probably smarter to just not do this capital raise, but it probably is better to ensure that we have 4 years runway. That is a very different story going to an investor than saying we don't have much revenue, we don't have much players, and we only have 9 months, 8 months of revenue left. But hey, please, sir, can we have some more money? You know what I'm saying? So we're building the narrative back. And if we do all of those things, sentiment will come back. The token price will go back up. People will be like, oh my God, if they do this, if they've done it with Arena, they're going to do it with Overworld, then they're going to build another game. All of a sudden, sentiment starts rolling. And then the token price is looking really healthy. And then it kind of is like, fuck, do we need to do a capital raise or not? Then I'm sitting there saying, this is probably a dumb idea, which is the best place I can be in before raising capital. So that's the plan. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's easy to forget is all of this stuff kind of has to happen at once, which is a little bit annoying in a certain sense. But like, if you ask me, if automated drone runs came into play right this minute, I don't think it would move the needle. I think you need Leviathan and things to kick off and get the wheel spinning first, and then automated drone runs is impactful. You generate revenue and things like that. So I think it's just one of those things where everything has to be done.
I don't know. I disagree.
The anticipation.
I disagree, dude. Like, the amount of people where if you can just click a button and be getting alluvials, you're forgetting how fucking addictive that is, dude. Like, you go to Illuvium Beyond, you buy $5,000 and you're like, I've run out already. I got to re-up. Like, it's too easy to spend money, and that's the good thing.
But I'm mostly referring to a multiple, right? So let's say our revenue is X and drone runs would make it 5X. I'm saying if Arena had 1,000, 2,000 players in it, Leviathan was kicked into gear, tournaments and things are live, your 5X goes to 25X pretty much straight away. Absolutely. That's more what I mean, is that like it would be so much more impactful once all of that stuff is live. And so I think getting that ready first is pretty important.
But that's, that's where we need to be. That's where we're talking about. If we get all of that right, and Arena has 10,000 plus players that are looking to win these Leviathan tournaments, we've got TFT people coming across, then I'm going to be a very, very happy man. I can tell you that.
So talking of future games, people have been hearing so much about Breach. What is Breach? Some people don't even know what a roguelike is. I'm hearing a lot of people saying that they would love a roguelike. They're excited for that. I think you've played the game internally, you've said. What can you tell us about Breach? Do you think it's going to be highly beneficial for Illuvium in the future, or is there something else on your mind?
So I think that whatever we build Illuvium into in terms of the overworld, what we're building for Breach, we require, right? Like we require creeps or alluvials, whatever you want to call them, to attack you, right? And so you need to be able to defend yourself. You need to be able to attack back. It brings into it melee combat. It brings into it different maps that allow for actual melee combat. And so my point there is everything that we're building for Breach fits into the new direction that we're going in. It fits in with multiplayer. It fits in with quests. It fits in with combat. So we're all good there. I just wonder, is it enough? Right? Like, I think, yes, 100%. People are going to love to play a roguelike. It's our IP. It's super cool. You can face bosses, but they're massive, and you got to take them down while also getting the smaller minions away. Like, I think people will love it. I just think we can do bigger. I just think we can do better, right? And, it hasn't been decided yet. This is going to be a conversation that Aaron is having with the community. We've got something like 16 internal game pitches for what we want to build. And either that's transforming the overworld into something new, but utilizing as many parts as possible, or it's going and building something in a completely different genre. But once we get Arena right and that demand for alluvials begins and we have something like automated drone runs, if that gets us to revenue neutral or a little bit positive, then we're definitely, like, investors will look at that and be like, okay, I see the vision, that like it makes total sense. They will give us the runway we need. At that point, I think we need to build something fucking big, like really big with the IP. I don't know what that is. I've got ideas in my head. I'm not even going to put them out there, but I think people in this space attach onto, something big, and I think this IP deserves a game. Yes, it might take a couple of years to build or even more, but if we've already got so many components that just work and generate revenue, our investors are happy, our players are happy, then we can spend the time to build something big.
I think, I want to say Lee, I think that's how you pronounce it. I think Lee in the chat has a really good question here. And he says, how will Breach be monetized? But I want to extend that to your grand vision, Monster Hunter, PvP, quests, and all that game as well. What is the major monetization plan there?
So you can bring in alluvials, right? And the whole idea is you level up. It's endless waves of alluvials and levels that you keep on beating and beating and beating. And if you want to, you can bring in your own alluvials, and that makes you stronger. If they're higher stats, if they're higher level, it's easier to plow through and make it further along. So again, like all our games, it's not a requirement for you to have alluvials, but it definitely is going to make your experience much better.
So I do wonder on the end goal there. So say you bring in alluvials and you have like a level 80 phosphorus or whatever, you're destroying it, right? What happens when you finish, when you lose on wave 50 or whatever? Do you get a bunch of rewards? Do you get a bunch of experience points? Is that it? Is there a different sort of leaderboard and competitive scene, or?
So you're getting experience, you're getting augments. I don't know if they want to call it augments, but you're getting, like, I don't know, for the sake of not knowing exactly what they want to call it a power up, right? Or a power boost. You gain these as you go along, because once you die, you've got to start again, right? And that I don't know. That for me is what gets me with roguelikes. Like I don't love that. Some people do. Some people fucking love it. But for me personally, I'm like, no, I want to get to a stage and then, my progress is saved. But that's not the idea here. And the cool thing is, if you do have a set of just incredible alluvials, you'll be able to make it to a higher level than anyone else. And then you've got those bragging rights to be like, I made it to level 180 and you guys are stuck on, 70 or 80 or whatever.
Yeah, and I think with roguelikes, those sorts of benefits and things are really cool. A lot of people really like them. I was never a big roguelike person until I played Rogue, and now I love them. I absolutely love them. Yeah, Rogue, someone made I don't know if it's a fan game or if it's official in any capacity, but someone made a Pokemon roguelike you can play in your browser, and it is really, really fun. You just play battle after battle, you put in your Pokemon, you capture Pokemon as you go, then you kind of your team changes out as you're playing in this browser-based game. But where it gets interesting is, say you lose, those captured Pokemon go into kind of your inventory. And so now if you caught a Rattata, you can start off with a Rattata next time you play the game. You can start off with more of a custom team and stuff like that on like a points-based system. But it's a lot of fun. And really it's just like a collection game on the back of this sort of thing. And it's really good. And it gave me a new appreciation for roguelikes in general. But I really do think that you need to make that end game point quite compelling, which is something that's quite hard to do. And so I get your hesitation there for sure. Okay. So coming off of that, Illuvium Beyond time. For anyone who doesn't know, Illuvium Beyond Wave 3 actually launches in, what is it, 8 hours? 9 hours? 10 hours, sorry. It launches in 10 hours. And if you haven't yet, please put my creator code in the Illuvidex on your profile screen before you go and purchase Illuvium Beyond discs. I really appreciate it. But there is a lot of, now this is something that's actually a little bit more personal than the community base here, but there's some talk about an Illuvium Beyond TCG. And I've seen that people are building games for things like Pirate Nation. There are a lot of other devs just building games on top of Pirate Nation so easily because all the assets are on chain, right? Would you be open to the community building the Illuvium Beyond TCG themselves? 100%. Because they could utilize the NFT art and stats already on chain and on APIs.
100%. Absolutely. Get it the fuck away from me. You guys build it and I'll be happy. Yeah, absolutely. Look, we're a slightly higher fidelity game than Pirate Nation. Like it's a lot faster to build for like indie components and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, a TCG doesn't need to integrate too much animation, visual effects. Like it's a very, very low lift game as it stands. So 100%, right? If there's 10 developers listening to this, my God, just build it, please. We'll support you however you need.
All right, I'd love to hear that because that's definitely been on my radar. All right, so the other thing is Captain Reese asks, what is the outstanding plan for Illuvium Master? I know a lot of it's under NDA, even I'm under NDA myself for most of it, but like generally speaking, will it be ready for Illuvium Beyond Wave 3?
Geez, I don't know if I'm under NDA, but I'm probably just about to break it. But yeah, so we made a deal with the guys. If they were shutting it down, so I think for them, they were happy to get anything from us. And to be fair, it's been very useful for us and our player base, and that's why I wanted to make sure that we could do something for them and purchase it. But at the same time, we don't want to add anything to our plate, and so we immediately decided we want to open source the code base. When I say open source, we absolutely will publish it in a repo where people can actually go in and check it out and use it themselves very quickly. It's happened so quickly that a dev hasn't even had time to go and do that and properly make sure that it's secure and stuff like that. So because a few people have asked, and I'm like, I will get it to you, but for now, we worked with Data Zenith, and they're the Illuva Data guys, and I'm hoping, Scrubber tells me at worst it'll be a couple of days late, which means probably the 23rd on Saturday, but they're going full steam ahead. That their intention is to have it ready. But worst case, it'll be a couple of days late, or maybe, call it maximum a week late, but it will be there, which I think is critical, right? Like, because I use Illuvium, not even to do anything. As I said, I don't go and buy Illuvatars off other people. I just go and buy more discs. But that feeling of being able to quickly identify, like, ooh, I've got the 8th rarest Illuvatar in the world, that makes me go, now I feel good. I'm going to spend more money,
Like, I was actually thinking, because I don't know if you saw the Illuvistats Chrome extension that I built with the help of ChatGPT. That was a lot of fun. People don't need it anymore. People have been telling me they've started uninstalling it because you got the new features in the Illuvidex. And I'm like, good, great. That's what it was there for. But it got me thinking that, like, if they gave me an API for those stats and things like that, I'd love to build a Chrome extension that overlays it on top of the assets as you pull them from the disk. And I think that would be really cool. But that's just me. All right. So the next thing is we'll jump into a little bit of Overworld here. So the main thing is when the Overworld experience has its upgrades and goes free to play, combat and all the rest of it, do you think we will still have a version of the Overworld in some way where you can capture alluvials?
Yes, I do. But I don't know how it's going to look like, right? And it's still so early that I don't even think we should discuss it, right? Because people latch on to an idea that I come up with or say something, and then they think, everyone else has discussed it. That's what we're going to do. Right now, the plan is Overworld stays as it is, except we add in all of the cool features. And then on top of that, if you don't want to go through the normal gameplay loop, you can do an automated drone run.
Yeah, I feel that. So Prometheus also asks, what happened to the top secret lore of Illuvium? What is the plan for that? I'm not a big lore guy myself, but a lot of people are really waiting for this.
Look, it's a lot of that lore is being revealed through the diary entries. It's taking a long time for people to find the diary entries. That's the first thing. And the second thing is the format. I've not seen a single person say, oh my God, I read this diary entry and this is what. It's just a shitty way to deliver a story. And it's not hitting, didn't hit with me. I flagged it like a couple of months before we launched. I was like, whoa, like we have to do more. And so over the part of this relaunch and part of the quests and whatever is going to be adding storyline in, because the most frustrating thing for me is the story is there. Like it's literally to the point where like I'm like just post it, like just do it as a blog post, let people read it and go, oh my God, because they're going to like what the what's happened to the planet, who Arlen is, who all of these unique characters are and what they're trying to achieve, what she's trying to achieve, who's evil, who's good. There's so much depth to it. We just need to build it into the questing platform, which we're doing. And that is going to reveal the lore. And part of that will be in the relaunch of Overworld, you'll start to experience that. Finally.
Do you think you'll have more top quality cutscenes and things like that, or even a lower quality version?
Yeah, there will be a couple, but that's the tough thing. Like people are like, oh my God, like just do more of those. Like, I think even you were like the other day, like give me 100 of these, and of course I'll go viral. It's like, give me 100 of them and I'll go viral. They take fucking 8 weeks to do and 20 people are working on them. It's not that simple. If we were a studio that had a cinematics team of 100 people, 100%, if we couldn't make something go viral, I would shoot myself. But it's like Dimitri in his spare time working on a trailer. Like, so that's the deal there. So I'm not going to say no cutscenes or whatever, but we have to be frugal with our resources, and yeah, that's kind of the deal there.
Yeah, you have to. It's work smarter, not harder. Really plays into it here. Okay, so we'll get on to Arena quickly before I have one last question. And the first thing with Arena is the sentiment from the community is that the Ranger overcomplicates the Illuvium Gauntlet. Do you think it needs to be removed? Do you think UI treatments and stuff are enough, or what do you think it needs to be changed completely? What are your plans here?
So what I said to the guys prior to launching it was actually the night before. I said, we're all good. I said, but Gauntlet is in a great place. People don't think it's too complex. They're not likening it to chess. There's enough RNG. You can win one, you can get wrecked another, you feel good, you go up, you go, it's good. You're about to change the complexity of this game by probably 5x, right? Like maybe that's aggressive, maybe 3x, right? And the reason is there's compounding complexity. When you add an additional thing to think about, you're not just doubling it, you're probably tripling how much stuff you need to do, because there's two things to think about. When you add on top of that, not just armor, but weapons as well, then it's like 5 times as much things, because you got to think of this one at that time, this one at that time, that one, and it starts to be a bit overwhelming. I don't think right now, my first reaction was very adverse. It was no, this will not work. We cannot do this. This is going to freak people out. They quickly were brainstorming, and they've come up with a UI which is really, really clean. Like something that I genuinely think takes a lot of the complexity out. And I'm cautiously optimistic that with this change, which should be here in the next few days, maybe early next week, this should be done. It'll give Ranger the addition of the Ranger a really good shot, because I want the Ranger to work so badly, because it unlocks so many of these new combinations, but it cannot be by sacrificing players having fun. It just can't. If it means it's all of a sudden too hard basket, then we can't do it. I'm sorry, we're not going back to the dark ages of fucking Ascendant. I'm not going there, man. I won't be here if we do. I'm telling you, I'll be dead.
Yeah, I think the Ranger, it gives you so much satisfying agency, especially towards the late game with all the synergies you can activate and stuff. And there's a big part of me that would hate to give that up. I absolutely love that. Personally, I think if you had to take a small win, I would cut out suits in any way you can and just have weapons. That reduces the complexity a lot, fixes a lot of the stuff. And you can even do things like when you hit level 6, you get a suit of X. And when you hit level 7, you get a different suit or whatever. And Ranger gets stronger as it levels up, because that's kind of what the levels are about. And I think that sort of thing could be really cool as a short win. But I've seen the UI you're referring to, unless it's been updated again. But it looks really good. And I'm excited to see what people think of it. I don't think it's going to solve every single problem. There's still going to be more testing to go, but I think it's going to do a really, really good job. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking at the very worst, take all of the RNG out of it, and you have a little interface that comes off of a little UI that comes off of the Ranger itself, and you can build the Ranger into whatever you want. If you want it to be Berserker, if you've got enough gold, boom, 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 you can upgrade it, instant Berserker, right? Which it takes the RNG out, takes the skill of being able to balance, oh, I need to buy that weapon, I don't need those 2 weapons, I need to buy that weapon. So it takes the thinking out of it, but it leaves the agency that you have, right? If you're thinking, oh, wow, I just got a legendary augment where I can now get Frost, and I already have a Jokul, then you got 2 Frost, and you might be your Ranger might be Berserker. You just go sell, 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 and put on your Frost weapon and buy, upgrade it all the way up. and then you have 3 frost. And you can do that in this way. You would be able to do that in, say, like 15 seconds. Some people might say, well, what's the point of the Ranger if everyone can just choose what they want? The point is to get those triple composites down when previously it's almost impossible. You need 2 legendary augments to be able to get it, like I did when I got 4 Berserker and I went God mode. But that's like 1 in 500. You know, we want to add it in more often.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. The way you talked about getting 4 Berserker is the satisfying moment that makes you come back to Illuvium. I think people are missing that, and that's why the Ranger is important. So I would rather have the Ranger in there and get it right and make it really fantastic than not have it at all, because it's those sorts of things where you're going to call back to that memorable moment for the next 3
100%.
months that we need to keep in Illuvium. But that's just my personal opinion. I don't know how many people are going to agree with that.
The chess players in the audience saying, stop trashing Ascendant. Look, I would love for millions of people to love Ascendant, right? Like I couldn't, but if you guys did, I would love it. But unfortunately, there's 300 of you guys, and it's not enough to keep the lights on. So, you know, we had to pivot.
I love Descendant. Needed some adjustments, but yeah, I think having both one day will be good. But Gauntlet doing first is perfectly fine. So the Ranger got added to the game relatively quickly. How long do you think it will take to implement things like scouting and the carousel?
We need multiplayer servers, so we're probably 1 week away from the code refactor being done by Daniel, who's our head engineer working on Arena. He's gonna it's a lot. It's 4 years of code he's refactoring, so he should hopefully be done next Friday. When he's finished, that's when Andre and a couple of the other guys are going to switch and start working on multiplayer servers. We're hopeful that we'll have multiplayer servers by about mid-December. The minute we have them, that's when carousels open up, galaxies open up, components, so many different things. And the idea is to ship quickly. So, you know, I don't have an exact timeline on it, but the idea is that we're ready to go with a game that is pretty much up to scratch with TFT around that March mark. So we've got 4 months to do all of this.
Yeah. So I hate to get too technical. I don't know if you have the answer for me, but when you say refactoring code, for those in the audience who aren't devs or whatever like that, what exactly needed to be done for multiplayer servers?
So we needed to clean up. I mean, there's so much old crap between survival mode, Ascendant. When you're looking at how you can build things really, really quickly, instead of going in and cleaning up the code or starting from scratch and saying like there's just too much here, you go in and you chop a little bit here, a little bit here, then you rewrite it based on we need this feature and this feature, and you accumulate what's called tech debt, which over time, like 4 years of not going back in and refactoring, there's so much tech debt inside of that code base that you just need to go back in and basically rewrite the code from scratch. And that's what he's doing now.
Sounds good. Okay, so the last one I've got for you is an IMX question, because this is starting to come front of mind for me more often than ever. But apparently ZK EVM now has a whole host of new features. The first one is there's simple cross-chain swaps and bridging. I'm pretty sure you can like Immutable X or ZK EVM ETH, you can swap it for ETH on mainnet, like just a flat, or USDC on mainnet. You can just flat swap them out and stuff like that now, apparently. Other things like there's no more endless transaction signing pop-ups, meaning that marketplace integration is actually possible for in-game clients for ZK EVM games. What is currently stopping Illuvium from migrating? Do you like, let's say after Gauntlet and everything's ready, do you think you'll migrate to ZK EVM?
100%. We'll migrate to something. We're absolutely not going to stay on this chain. It's just not optimized. it's definitely not user friendly for bringing people cross chain, and they've realized that, and they just, you know, they're I get it, right? Them putting a lot of effort into ZK EVM, that's a good play for them. And so, you know, it wasn't possible for us to migrate across prior to launching. There was just too much stuff. And to be honest, we didn't see that much positives in doing it at that stage. I think they've come a long way in the last 6 months. As you say, there's a lot of features where our problems would be fixed if we're migrated. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we're thinking about there. It's not enough. Like, I get this question every 2 days. Someone will DM me and be like, "Hey, have you thought about building your own chain? Have you thought about migrating to this chain? And this game launched and it's amazing on there." And it's like, we're not like, yes, that's all I'll say. It's a very sensitive topic. Yes, I have thought about building our own chain. Yes, I have thought about migrating. Yes, we have spoken to IMX about migrating to ZK EVM. Every single question that you ask me when it comes to chain related stuff, yes, we've very likely thought about it.
We should start a thread where everyone could put a vote in which chain they want. We've got like 50 different chains in there. Personally, the Apex chain for Pirate Nation, I think they're building some insane stuff there, and I would love to see us utilize that. But besides that, ZKAVM, I think, is doing some pretty cool stuff lately. And I've always thought that they were, like in the past 2 years, let's say, I thought they were kind of meh. They weren't really keeping up. But lately, they've really shown their stuff. And I'm looking forward to seeing where they go. So is there anything else you'd like to leave us off on before we wrap this one up?
No, that's it. I think we've hit everything. I can't wait for Beyond tomorrow. There's not many alphas, you know. That's the crazy thing. I sort of let Roger go nuts on this one and said, look, refactor it however you want. And part of that was him saying, hey, no 24 hours, limitless alphas. Let's do a short amount. I was like, all right, let's see how that works out for you. But, you know, I think given the limited quantity of the alphas, I think it was a good play by him. And I think that that's going to mean that they sell out. Like, whereas I wasn't much of an alpha person, I'm going to go in on the alpha sale, and I think I'm going to do a decent portion, maybe like 10K on alpha stuff. And, you know, people the other day, someone was asking me, they're like, why though? It does nothing. And I'm like, I'll tell you why. Because when you open something that is like epic, the shitty ones like low tiers and low stage, power level not high, like shitty backgrounds, you're like, yeah, it's an alpha, who gives a fuck? But when you get something that's like top 100 material and it's alpha, I don't care what anyone says. You go to someone like an Alexa and you say, and it's also alpha, it's got something there. And I know it for me, and I know that other people would experience that. So I'm really, really excited about the alpha sale. We've got the launch party, which is 24 hours later. So yeah, I can't wait to get back into Illuvium Beyond. It's crazy how long it's been.
Yeah, I've got a ton of funds secured. If alpha sells out quickly, I'll hopefully be able to do a 100 disc stream tomorrow as well. I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, I think alpha's going to be crazy. The other thing you forgot is you don't get penalized for the stretch goal rewards anymore. And I know a lot of people in Illuvium Beyond love the stretch goal, myself included. It's one of my favorite things. I'm like, oh, I'm close to that next reward. Yeah. Now for the alpha disc, you get the bonus. And so there's not really a reason not to. Sure, they're more expensive, and the standard discs are $10. So it's not that bad.
And here's a little bit of alpha for you. In the partner sale that we have coming up, which actually is scheduled, there'll be a lot more details for that. There's a video coming out. There's a press release coming out in like early December. But there's a physical item for the first time. Now I know a lot of people will be like, yeah, I've got my disc plate. It's a physical item from the partner, not us. Yes, we've collaborated on it, and it's, you know, branded with us, but it's a physical item, And that, when we talk about stretch goals, that's a stretch goal. So if you buy enough, you get it. I'm getting one of those. And the worst part is, I think I've got to get one for like 4 of my friends as well. So that I'm really, really, really excited about.
I have to ask. I know what the item is. Or like I think I know. I
You
half
know who
forget.
the partner is,
I
right?
half forget every now and then. But I should ask. Will this item from the partner, will it have any sort of Illuvium branding on it or anything
Yes.
like that?
Yes.
That is so cool. You guys are gonna love what we have in store. What Kieran, has in store for all that. I hope it's not too far down the stretch goal. I want it so bad. All right. Okay. Thanks so much for joining me, mate. It's always a pleasure. We got
Sorry
through a lot
about
today.
yesterday as well. Hate
Hmm?
to do that.
Oh no, that's all good. It's just one of those things. It's like a week delay is one thing, but like 24 hours, perfectly chill. Absolutely love it. All right. Have a good one. Man, have a good one, everyone, for watching the stream. Thank you so much for joining us. I answered a bunch of the questions from people in stream too, so I'm glad I got to do that. Don't forget to use my creator code. Is there anything else you want to leave us off on, Kieran, before we wrap this up?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Have